Namaste, this is Vishwa. Today I'm going to talk about what is Tantra. It's a very interesting topic. But before I go into it, I do want to mention that Tantra is used in many different traditions. The original root of Tantra comes from the Vedic system. The word Tantra is found in Rig Veda to the Atharvavedas. And then later on, it continued till the real tantric text came in existence. The Tantra is also found in Buddhism, especially in Tibetan Buddhism, which is called Tantric Buddhism, or also called Vajrayana tradition. It's also found in Bon tradition. Later, it propagated in Jainism, Shintoism, and Taoism. So that's the reach of Tantra in many different traditions, especially in the East. So what is Tantra, which influenced so many traditions? I'm going to use the root source of Tantra, which is a Vedic system, to explain that what exactly it is. So the word Tantra comes from Sanskrit. And to understand a word of Sanskrit, you need to apply three levels of definition. The first is the literal, means as it is defined in the dictionary. The second one is etymological, means how the word is formed based on the root words. So what is the meaning from the root and joining it together, coming to its real meaning. And the third one is interpretative meaning, that what this word really reveals, what it conveys. Many master explains the actual meaning of the word. So we're going to go step by step to understand and bring it together that what actually the word Tantra means. So let's look at the literal meaning of Tantra. In Shruti texts such as Rig Veda, Atharvaveda, and Yajurveda, the Tantra word is used which meant loom or weaving, such as weaving device, as a context of weaving the knowledge, rituals, everything together. In Samveda, it meant essence. In Smriti texts such as Arthashastra, Sankhya Karika, or Mahabharata, it meant science system or doctrine. In Purana texts such as Vishnu Purana, it meant practices and ritual. In pure tantric texts such as Kamika Tantra or Tantraloka Tantra, it meant doctrine and practices. So you can see that Tantra means as simple as system or framework or method or principle or technique, doctrine, theory, scripture, rule, or system of practice. It also means authority, fabric, model, spell, continuity, or scientific work. These were the literal meaning as per the dictionary and the context it was used in these ancient texts. Now let's see what's the etymological meaning of Tantra. Tantra is made of two words, tanoti and trayati. The word tanoti means to weave, to expand, to spread, or to stretch. Trayati means to liberate, or to free, or to even save, or an instrument. Thus the Tantra means an instrument for expansion, or you can say to expand one's experience to attain liberation. So if we add the literal and etymological meaning together, so the Tantra is an ancient system and tradition which includes philosophy and practical instructions, techniques or practices to expand human experience and awareness beyond all limitations to attain worldly and spiritual prosperity. Now let's see what are the interpretative meaning of Tantra. These will be more than one. The first one I will start with the famous tantric text called Kamika Tantra, in which it defines by itself that why the Tantra is called Tantra. And it says because it expands on copious and profound matters, especially relating to principles of reality, which is called tattvas in Sanskrit, and mantras, because it provides liberation from the cycle of suffering. It is called Tantra. So the next interpretative meaning of Tantra is a system which provides tools and techniques for real experience, spiritual experience, and worship. The second one says Tantra is both a philosophy and science. It embraces diverse systems and practices into a single integrated system. As you can see from the first one, the Pratyaksha Shastra, Sadhana Shastra, and Upasana Shastra are technically three different shastras. But the above definition shows an example of integrated system. Thus, these two support each other by definition. Now, the last set of interpretative meaning of Tantra from my favorite teacher. He said, Tantra is the skillful science of energy management. It is a universal system that provides tools and techniques for real experience. It is a science of seeing, feeling, knowing the infinite through finite. Tantra also means the happiness from expansion of awareness, the awe or wonder to have your heart touched by connecting with the fabric that weaves everything in the existence together. So keep in mind the two important lines. Tantra is the skillful science of energy management. Tantra means to have your heart touched in the awe or wonder. So the Tantra can be simply defined as a system, or tools, or techniques, or practices which can expand your awareness beyond all limitations. Or it's a science of a skillful management of energy which can touch your heart in awe or wonder. So now we understood the correct meaning of Tantra. But there are so many misunderstandings about Tantra, and it's important to point that out. So I'm going to take one by one. The very first misunderstanding goes back to the East, especially in India. If you talk about Tantra, most people who are not aware of it, they will think it's a magic, especially the black magic. But is it Tantra a black magic? Well, let's dive into it. So Tantra has several subsystems, and one of the subsystems has practices of magic called magic practices or Yogamaya sadhana, which is done through Prayoga Shastra. Now, on a very high level, there are two types of those magics. One is a white magic, in which the power of the energy is used for positive purposes. For example, healing someone. I have personally experienced that white magic in my village when I was growing up as a child. And the second one, which is called black magic, when people use the energy for negative purposes, such as killing someone, seducing someone, or making their mind to be in confused state. There are other variations of the same technique. That is where the black magic word comes in the picture. But it is not recommended. You have the power. Now you can use it for good purpose or bad purpose. It's up to you. Energy itself doesn't know that what is good, what is bad. It's up to the person who is using that energy for certain purpose. So that's the truth about the magic practices. So magic practices are part of Tantra, but Tantra itself is not the magic. Please be clear on that. So let's see on the other side that what is the other misunderstanding. So going into the West, Tantra word as it comes in the ear, most people think about sex. So is sex Tantra? Well, there are several practices, sexual practices, which is part of Tantra. It is a fact. Dozens of pure tantric texts talks about sexual practices. That doesn't mean that Tantra is sex. Tantra does not ignore anything. Most of the religious practices try to suppress sex. But truth is, we all came out from sex. The Tantra says there are three purposes for the sexual union. One is the pleasure and healing. The second is for procreation, with most people doing it by default. And the third one is for transcendence. So the main purpose of tantric practices are towards the transcendence. But many rishis, many masters, they knew these techniques to how to even procreate in a right way, to create the right child who have the bright character and bright quality. There are many different aspects come together. So it depends how you use the sexual practices to deliver what. So it depends whether you are applying that practices for transcendence, procreation, sexual pleasure, or healing. So it's important to understand that Tantra is not magic. Tantra is not sex, but the magical practices, sexual practices are part of Tantra. They are a very tiny part of it, not the whole Tantra. One tiny drop in the whole system, which you will see next as how many subjects are covered in Tantra. So as you can see that Varahi Tantra describes more than 24 subjects, or I can call it subsystems of Tantra, starting from consciousness, which is like a thread among all the subsystems. In yoga, which you know and may have practiced. Now, yoga here in Tantra contains multiple systems of yoga, which is integrated together as one tantric yoga system. I will talk about this in a separate video. But for the example is Hatha Yoga, as most of you have practiced posture-based yoga. Includes pranayama, the breathing and meditation, etc. On the other side, the medicine, the several branches of medicine is used in Tantra. One of the most popular one is known as Ayurveda. And you may be aware of mantras. So mantra system is also there. Then on the other side, if you see, worship and prayer is part of our life. Or whoever you may worship, Tantra teaches you the steps, tools and practices how to do it. There is also called spiritual practices, which is in Sanskrit called sadhana. And you might have heard yantra and mandala, which are called magic circles, the core subsystem of Tantra. And to support all that, we all need a house, at least to live in. Architecture. In Sanskrit, the system is called Vastu. Through the Vastu knowledge, we know how to build our house, how to build our temple, how to build any building which will be good for our well-being, for our business, our environment, how the directional energy flows in the house which will be good for the well-being of everybody. On the other side, if you look at it, there is astrology, which is Jyotish. Basically, it talks about in a short, if I say, directs you or gives you a good time to do certain things which will have faster and better result for you. Based on the planetary conditions and everything else which is called astronomy, which deals with all the planets and everything. And then you already know, and we talked about sex. Sex is an integral part of life. We cannot take it out. We all born out of sex. And it's important to know how to approach sex, how to have intimate relationship. In our school, everything is taught, but it's the religious conditioning of today's world that we don't teach how to approach sex. And magic, not everybody needs magic, but in Tantra, when you acquire power or siddhi, those power can be used for good purposes or bad purposes. So I wanted to mention, and these two I have already talked about it. So I hope this gives you a clear picture that Tantra is not limited to one or two subjects, but it has a big area. And not one person can be master of all. It takes years of study and practices to be a master in one system. But here I wanted to present the vastness of tantric system. I hope it was useful for you. So what is the basic theme behind the Tantra? The Tantra says that you are under the influence of limitations. You are born with limitations. It can be by birth, it can be your finances, your society, it can be your genetics, it can be your karma. So whatever you do to overcome that limitation is Tantra. And in order to overcome those limitations, you might need help from one or multiple subjects, which I just covered in Tantra. So get over those limitations and expand your awareness. Be fulfilled in this life right now when you are living in this body. Don't wait to go to heaven. So thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope this information was useful for you. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the information, please subscribe, like, and share so that everyone else can also enjoy this.